The rattle of Camille's car keys echoed around the space at the bottom of the stairs of her apartment as she softly closed the door behind her. Hearing a faint sound, she gripped the keys tightly to cease the jingling. It was a sound which was becoming more and more familiar every time she came home from work. Originally she thought the melody came from Mrs. Hiver on the ground floor. However, she was now convinced it was coming from the second floor, the apartment whose lodger had been a mystery for the past 2 years. She knew as soon as she managed to reach the upper floor, the music would abruptly stop, as it always did. Considering today might have actually been the day that her suspicions were confirmed, she proceeded to creep up the steps, avoiding the ones that creaked. Other than the notes from the piano, the stairwell was silent. But as soon as Camille had set foot on the third step from the top, the music came to a halt once again, just like any other day. Usually when the harmony stopped, she would continue up to her own floor, but the sense of wonder that day was a little too tempting to ignore. Her eyes were drawn to the door, and before she knew it, she was crouched down with her ear pressed against it. After a few seconds of complete silence, she returned to her feet and slowly made her way back towards the stairwell. Reaching the first step to the upper floor, she heard a click followed by a creak from the door opening behind her. As she turned, her eyes were met by a woman of a similar age. She stood in the doorway in a baggy black t-shirt, which near enough reached her knees, just about covering the holes in her jogging bottoms. Her hair hung in dreadlocks, and each ear held a cigarette. In an attempt to catch the culprit supposedly snooping at her door, she hadn't had time to place down her bowl of microwave noodles, the smell of which lingered around the open space. Licking the sauce from around her mouth, she stared bemused at Camille.
"You alright?"
The woman greeted her. She contemplated answering for a second, and also considered bolting up the stairs to avoid further embarrassment. Her uniform was the only thing stopping her from doing so. A police officer scampering up the stairs after eavesdropping seemed unprofessional on a whole new level. Trying to play it off was her only option, praying her attempts would be slightly better than Damon's earlier endeavours.
Hey, how's it going?
Camille answered hesitantly. At first, the woman seemed completely oblivious to Camille's curiosity, using the fork she was holding to scratch the side of her neck before returning it to her bowl of noodles.
"Pretty good, I guess. No complaints so far."
Camille smiled awkwardly, silently praying that today might be the day a sinkhole would appear and swallow her whole to avoid this encounter, but no such luck seemed to be heading her way.
Great.
For a second she did hope that would be the end of their conversation, but as the woman held her gaze while slurping up a noodle from the bowl beneath her, she knew that there was more to be said. The woman tilted her head, signalling for Camille to do the same and look into the direction she was gesturing. There it was, a very discreet camera in the corner of the hall amongst the cobwebs and chipped paintwork.
"So, did you need something, or do you just enjoy resting your face on people's doors?"
Red-faced, Camille knew there was no point in lying. After all, her intentions weren't at all menacing. It was just curiosity.
Oh, it's the music. I've been hearing it every time I come home from work for the past 2 years, and I haven't managed to figure out where it's coming from yet. Is it you?
Twirling a fork full of noodles, the woman smirked.
"Stress relief. I play when I'm thinking, when I'm feeling low."
The thought of such wonderful music being produced by the woman stood before her made Camille completely oblivious to the woman's previous statement. Not that she felt comfortable asking someone she had just met why she felt that way. She curled her lip, trying to think of a reasonable response.
Oh, sorry. I didn't catch your name. I'm Camille.
The woman stepped forward, wiping the sauce from the noodles off the corners of her mouth before offering the same hand for Camille to shake.
"Ashley. But the few friends I have call me Ash."
Camille accepted her hand abruptly, unwilling to appear any more rude than she already considered herself to be.
Oh, well, it's nice to meet you, Ash.
Ashley cocked an eyebrow before slowly stepping back towards her door.
"Assuming we're friends already. How bold. I like you."
Trying to backtrack to avoid looking like a fool came a little too late as a flustered Camille laughed awkwardly.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun.
Ashley turned back to her and shook her head, grin still fixed onto her face.
"I'm taking the piss. So, Camille. Oh, that's French."
It appeared Ashley too was tired of Camille's inability to get herself out of a difficult situation, but she couldn't resist seeing her squirm.
Yeah. My parents thought it was unique.
Slurping up another noodle as she pondered, a curious look appeared on Ashley's face.
Are your parents French?
No, they just like French names. My brother and sister are both actually in Paris at the moment on courses to learn the language though. Vivian wants to go into teaching and Renee wants to be a chef. Sorry, I'm droning on.
She listened intently as she finished off her bowl of her unusual breakfast choice and seemed to be genuinely interested in what she had to say.
So a teacher, a chef, and a police officer. I'm guessing that's what you do.
Yeah. I've been part of the Holston Police service for around 5 years now. How about you? I can't say I've seen you around much.
Ashley was hesitant to reply at first, as she carefully considered her answer for a few seconds.
I am studying art. Online classes. I don't leave the flat much.
Camille saw this moment as a perfect time to wrap up the conversation. After all, her mother had always taught her not to intrude too much into strangers' personal lives. After her curious childhood often got her into trouble for asking too many questions.
I see. Well, it's been nice talking to you, Ashley. I'm sure I'll see you around soon. And don't be afraid to come out for a chat.
Cradling her empty bowl, Ashley leant against the door frame, flicking a few lengths of dreadlocks over her shoulder as she watched Camille slowly head up the stairs.
Perhaps next time you could come in for a coffee or for something?
Camille looked back and smiled, considering how most people would react to someone lurking around trying to listen in to what was happening inside their flat. Ashley seemed to take the situation quite well. She thought perhaps she was just lonely, watching the world go by from a window or a hidden camera.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'm sure I'll see you around.
Finally reaching the top of the stairwell, Camille stopped just short of her door as she heard the music begin again, this time in a slightly more upbeat melody, which after the events which had just occurred brought a slight smile to her face.